Hello, everyone. Good morning, Alicia.
Hello, Genevieve. How are you
So,
today?
I'm good. I'm good. Very happy with this summer. How about you?
I am very happy to be off for a couple of months, enjoy the nice, beautiful weather outside, and getting some well deserved me time.
Exactly. We have many things in common, Alicia. Like we work together in the school system. We love everything about mindset and
Yeah,
personal growth. That's the
absolutely.
blessing to be connected to somebody who, like who's like-minded.
Yeah, but that's how mindset works, right? Right there. We
Exactly. It
get
attracts.
Exactly. We attract the things that we desire, the people that we desire by just focusing on our minds, what we're thinking, our thoughts. Like the topic we're gonna talk about today is, it's called Outer World Follows Inner World, right? And that's exactly
Oh.
what that example is. The way we think is what manifests in our outer world, right?
I love it. I love it. And as we said, your mindset is everything. So, welcome to the third episode of the Mindset Podcast with Coach Alicia and me, Coach Genevieve. So, we hope that today we will bring you to another level of how we should like take care of us by shaping our mindset and growing ourselves. It's all in our mind, and I would invite Coach Alicia to repeat this amazing quotes that she started today so that we can get started the third episode of the podcast mindset.
Absolutely. So the phrase outer world follows inner world is a quote I heard about 5 or 6 years ago from someone who I consider a mentor. His name is Peter Sage, and he is a motivational speaker, and he inspires hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world in how to think about becoming better with their lives. So when I heard that phrase, outer world follows inner world, it really stumped me, right? I
Mhm.
was like, it took me a minute to actually grasp it. Genevieve, what do you think of that quote?
I mean, it's amazing. I love it because it's a raw truth, you know? And it reminds me one of the quote that one of my favorite mentors also said, John Maxwell. He said that always try to be bigger on the inside than the outside because actually it all brings us back to how the inner like our inner self is important actually. And I say so raw truth because most of the time we all wear masks and we want to fit others' vision. We want to do as everybody around us, and we are not happy and we don't want to accept it because not everybody is ready, to accept what is going on in the inner world, to be ready to manifest something that is natural and, lovable outside.
Absolutely. And when I heard that quote, and it for me, it was a challenge. It's like,
Mm,
oh, it's time to pay attention to what's going on in my inner world. What does
exactly.
that mean? Yes, somebody may say to
Mm,
you, oh, outer world follows inner world. What does that mean, really? And what that
mm,
meant for me is to start paying attention to my thoughts, and not
mm,
just my thoughts, the emotions behind those thoughts. Because sometimes, like, we get anxious about something, but we're not even aware of it. We have a thought, and then we start getting anxious, but we're not aware of it. And Why are
Mm-hmm.
we getting anxious? I don't know. Why am I getting anxious about this? This is something in the future or something from the past. It's not in this present moment. So why do I get anxious? So then I started
Mm-hmm.
really paying close attention to how I was feeling about my thoughts. And that's when I noticed that I can work on my inner world, and I understood more about what it meant. And that took practicing, paying attention to what thoughts, the thoughts I was having, and the emotions that I was feeling that were connected to those thoughts. And working on changing them, because that's what mindset is. So now I realized that I was having certain types of emotions to certain thoughts, and I wanted to change those. Like, I don't need to be anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can work on, okay, what is it that I can do to make me feel better about what's happening tomorrow? What can I do in the present moment? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what I started doing. I started paying very close attention to my thoughts, and also even closer attention to the emotions that I was feeling. I will give you a small example.
Mm-hmm.
I I was a nervous driver. So when I got
Oh.
on the highway, I would get so anxious. And how this presented itself was my palms would sweat so much. Like, because I
Okay.
was so nervous. And all the things I was nervous about is things that I've heard that happen on the highway. It's never happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's ever happened to me. But the things I heard, I was just so nervous about them. So when I get on the highway, my palms would start sweating and I would be drying my hands as I drive. And after I learned about inner world and outer world, I started speaking to myself as I drive. I would say to myself, you know what? I'm fine. Nothing. I'm fine. Nothing's happening. In this moment, I'm perfectly fine. And I would repeat that to myself over and over again. And I remember when I started feeling different. Like, I would drive and I would pay attention to how I was feeling. And if I was feeling that anxiety, I would speak to myself. I would say, you know what? Right now, in this moment, I'm perfectly fine. And so I continued to do that. And now I sometimes will drive on the highway and I will check in with my body to see how I'm feeling. And I smile because my palms are no longer sweaty. I mean, every now and then if I go to a newer place that I'm not sure of, it'll come up, but it's not as strong as it used to be, and it goes away a lot faster. So, it just takes time to practice. And that's one example of how you can change, what you're feeling inside, and out, and your outer world, it changes. I drive and I have no issues driving, because now I'm a lot more comfortable with it because I worked on it.
It's then very true when we say that change your thought and change your world. I mean, for some people, this is a very easy thing to say. That when you say to some people, change your thought and you will change your circumstance, your reality, they're like, huh, this is like the models of the, personal development people and coaches. But is it actually true? And maybe it is said very easily like that, but people do everything every day. They spend a lot of money in psychologists, psychiatric, no, not psychiatric, but psychologist things. They pay a lot. They invest money in a lot of things to learn and to try this first step, which is changing their thought. Because actually, it's true that everything comes from that, right? And, even in the Bible, it is said like that, as a man think, as he is, right?
Absolutely.
So we tend sometimes to think that, oh, it's the new slogan, it's a trend. from the personal development people, but it is actually the reality. Our thought, as you said, which is our inner world, like influence and impact in many ways our outer world. And this is true. So I wanted to share uh, with our audience this beautiful image. I know that they already know it because many of us I know saw this earlier or somewhere. So, what do you think about it? I love this image, by the way.
Absolutely. Our thoughts, our words, actions, habits. So and it forms our character. So like what when I read this I see like yes, we have certain thoughts. We have to act on those thoughts, and it's not just acting on it. We have to practice it. Like I said in that little story that I told, I had to practice, sitting with myself and feeling those feelings, because once you practice them and then you've decided that that's how you build your character, because character is doesn't just happen. You have to practice it. You have to practice who you want to be in this world,
Oh,
and that's how you attract. You have to practice who you want to be in this world, because you can't just go out there and be. You have to decide. Like if someone, for example, yell at me outside, I don't automatically decide that I want to yell back, because that's not who I am, right? It's not to say that, oh, you're being weak or whatever. You have to decide, is this who I want, how I want to represent myself? And I've been in a situation where the automatic response is to yell back. And
mm,
I had to practice that. Oh, it is an automatic response, but it is not the response that I want. So the more I practice that, I want to pause and reflect on what this person is saying and how I want to respond. That is how I want to represent myself in the world. And that is what character
mm,
is. Character is how you represent yourself. And the more you choose to represent yourself in a positive light, the more
mm,
you're forging a path to a better destiny, to who you
mm.
will be and who you will attract into your world.
This is so, so interesting. I love when you say we have to practice who we want to be because it is, it's not granted. It's really something that you need to work on. You need to be intentional about it. You need to want it.
Yes.
You need to want it. So, I love it. And maybe somebody is listening or watching this podcast and are like, well, I am like this since I was, 8 years old, or I'm like this since I was a teenager. But I think that there's always, every day is a new day. It's a day to start something new, to believe, and hope and be intentional. Every day, it's an opportunity to be a better version. Like when you wake up and you already discouraged on who you can be, that's mean that you won't practice that day who you want to be, right? And when I look at this image, I see, uh, a middle line that is determining. We have like 6 steps, right? The thought, words, actions, habits, and then character and destiny. So when I look at this image, I see that the middle line is actions. Like every day we do things, and at the end of the day, we can reflect on our days and see that this is not something that make me comfortable, just like you say. This is not something that represent who I want to be, right? And that's the middle line where you can step back and try to rewind the things for the following day, right? And you will see that what you have to change is your words. But then you will realize, as you say, that you used to yell back like that was your action, but then you see that no, why do I say that? Because this is how I feel, this is what I thought the situation is. And then you can, when you start this, is already, you have already, started the mindset changing process in you. And this is very important. The thing is that a habit is more, tough to change. That's why action is really the middle line of this process, where you can step back and try to, correct what you're saying, because what you said actually come from how you think, right? And it is also said in the Bible that what we think is what come out of our mouth. Because once you pass this midline reflection, after like reflecting on your action, why do you do these things like that, why do you say things like that, that you need to think differently and start talking differently, start acting differently. But it all started with your mind, because once it's become a habit, it's very difficult to change. And when it is a character, then start being a little bit discouraged, right? Because
You got even more work.
exactly, it will shape our destiny, and we will see, as you said, our outer world, giving us things that we don't like. How many people say, no, does not treat me well? But when life is not a person,
Yeah,
life is something you created, right? And I
absolutely.
don't say that it's the fault of those who have, a tough life. I don't say that, no, that's your fault, you created. But there's a way, there's still hope, to change it. And it is just to start, after listening to us today, to get in touch with us and see our, contact in the description of this video, or just decide to watch again this video or listen the first episode and start this process of taking care of your mind, and on, just as you say, taking care of your inner world, just like the way you stopped and start thinking about, what is going on in my inner world, you know what can I change in my outer world if I go back inside and start looking at what is going on inside.
Hmm.
And while you were talking, I was thinking about something. Like, if you want to have a healthy baby, there are some things that you need to do during your pregnancy, right?
Absolutely.
We all know that if you like eat junks and drink alcohol or smoke or do this and this, you may not have that, a healthy baby. It can affect his brain later on in school and things like that. Many kids were born and sometimes even died because, they were not cared enough when they
Hmm.
were in the womb. And
Absolutely.
that's the same thing, you know. In marketing, as I have sales background, they said, garbage in, garbage out. That's
I like
easy. But that's that's the reality, that everywhere, in any kind of things, in all the department of our life, that's a rule.
that.
That's the rule. Garbage in, garbage out, and that's mean, uh, just like you said, the inner world, the outer world follows inner world, or that is what it is, and that's why it's very important to see that it's all started in the thought. So I
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Look at this. Um, some people like display a very toxic character in life in general, and sometimes you can. I don't know. I have encountered some, you know, toxic person in my life, in my journey, and like, you just see somebody acting and behaving, and everybody will say, or this person has a bad character. But when I look at this image, where do you think does this bad character come from?
Well, there's a couple of things that I thought about as you were speaking.
Mm,
One is what is the definition of a toxic character? Like, that's question one. The other is something that I've been practicing right now is sometimes, like we're just talking about it, outer
mm-hmm,
world follows inner world. So if we are attracting someone with a what we consider negative, toxic characteristics, should we look inside ourselves and say to ourselves, what is it inside us that is causing us to attract this person? And what
mm-hmm,
is the lesson that this person's here to teach us? Because if we go back to the creator and we think every human being, every soul that we encounter, if we look at them from a godly perspective, they are pure, right?
mm-hmm,
God
mm-hmm,
looks at us and he sees purity. So, whatever character that person is displaying, they're there because there is something that we need to learn from that, right? And that's how I've been looking at my outer world. Whenever something comes into my world that is something that I don't desire. I won't say it's bad. I don't desire it. So I start looking at it and saying to myself, what is it in my inner world that is causing this thing to be attracted into my outer world? And that takes some deep sometimes meditation and contemplation, and that's one of the things I was going to hint on. Like, we'll get into the topic of what is your daily routine like that helps you prepare yourself for the outer world, right? Because that's what we have to do. We have to practice being the person that we want to be to attract the people and the things in our outer world that we want to experience. But you do have to have some practice going on daily, right? And you have to start your day a certain way to be able to do that, right? So honestly, the answer that I would give you for that question is we can't control anything external that's happening in our
mm-hmm,
external world. So if someone comes into our from the external world that's doing something that we don't desire, we need to go inside and see how we can change something that the way we're feeling so that it'll change the narrative of that person or that thing that's going on in our outer world. And that is something that will happen if you go in and you start looking at that person from a different perspective.
mm-hmm. This is so true. Somebody say that we cannot control how people, you know, behave, but we can control the response we decide to give to to that behavior. And this is true. I'm talking about this because many people today uh, are confronted to this um, uh, difficulty. I can say it. I can In some situation it's even the suffering because they are with toxic people. And as you ask what is toxic, it's actually toxic is like something that is poisoning your life or your environment or your reality.
Mhm.
It is exactly the response I wanted to give to that. The As you notice that somebody is poisoning your peace, your environment, what do you have to do? It's not to just take it as a fact. You had to act on it. And the third thing you better do with that is to go inside and see how you can change, your position, because it's a position. When somebody like find the point where he can put the poison and it will work, so change your position, and it started in your mind, because it's always words, it's always actions, you know but don't let those action, bad habits, bad action, bad words come and change your thought and reach your thought. So in this situation, you can like put um, you know, a barrier, to put a limit on your soul, and don't let them, touch your soul.
Boundaries. Boundaries.
Boundaries,
You
exactly.
and
That's the word I was
yeah,
looking for.
boundaries, and you're not setting up boundaries for them. When you set a boundary, it's really for yourself. So always remember,
Exactly.
when you're setting up a boundary, it is for you, for your peace of mind, for your soul, for your happiness, all those things. You set boundaries, you have to.
Exactly. That is for you. Like you decide that, okay, these things, I will no longer let them, affect me, because it is just who this person, for example, is. And I'm not somebody who will take it. I will no longer take it, you
Yeah.
know. And this is exactly, many people say that, um, I, you say the truth. Like we attract, because of our thought, people who are toxic. So most of the time, if you like go inside of you, you will see that I'm. This is just true for the case of the relationship, for example, because we don't choose our colleagues,
No.
right? We don't choose our family members. So it's most in the relationship, because some people are struggling to change their mind because they are in a bad relationship where they are living, in a kind of toxicity. And but this is how you can change, because somebody asked me last week, I keep attracting, you know, people who deceive me. I keep attracting deceiver and toxic people. I don't know, how to do about that. I just decided to stay like that. And I say, no, it's that. It started in you. What do you think about yourself? How do you uh how do you, like, when you get into a relationship, you get into it just like you are drowning in your own life, and you need you know a savior, so that anybody who comes and like looks a little bit, kind and all this stuff, so you just like, you're my savior. Why do you think like that? Because it started on, that's where it started. What do you think about yourself? Why do you think that you cannot handle your own life by yourself? When you will start like appreciating your life, thinking that you can, you can, dream about getting married, but you don't have to dream about it. Just like without it, you are nothing.
Yeah.
That's why you attract people who come then, and by the end, and treat you just like, you are actually nothing without me. And
Yeah.
ask yourself, why do I always, I said it started in your mind. That's why I told you, maybe I guess this beautiful lady will watch this video, and then that will be one of the answer, you
Yeah.
know.
Opening up, opening, when you open yourself up to everything and anything, then it happens. That's what will happen. One of the things that I would encourage you to encourage that person to think about is the words that they use. Words are, some people, I've heard the phrase, your words are like spells and spells are like magic. So
Mm,
if you are going to say, why do I attract certain things, you have to change that narrative in your mind, because those words are based on your thoughts. So if
mm,
you are saying those words, those are the thoughts that you are having. And the minute you are expressing those words, you're going to attract that thing. Even if you're thinking, oh, I don't want this, it's the thought that you're having. And that's why you're saying, if you go around saying, oh my gosh, why do I attract this? Or that's what you're going to attract. You have to think, you know what? I am a beautiful human being. I can attract great things. You don't even say I can, you say I attract the great
Mm-hmm.
things into my life. You have to start dissecting your words. And even if you say something, you realize, oh, that's not really what I want to say. I want to say, I'm a beautiful soul and I'm attracting, not I'm going to. Always correct yourself. I'm attracting beautiful things. I'm attracting beautiful people. I'm attracting the man that is going to be kind, loving, all of the things that I want,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm attracting. And you say that to yourself. Every time you get that thought that, why do I? You switch it right away. But you also
Mm-hmm.
have to be aware. If you're, and that's why it's important to go into your, again, into your inner world and pay attention to your thoughts and your emotions, because those are the things that allow you to attract the things you want in your outer world. You consistently have to, it's like somebody telling you, hey, if I say this word, call me out on it. You got to call yourself out. You're like, wait, that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I wanted. That's not the thought I want to have. And you got to
Mm-hmm.
keep repeating that until you start realizing that, wow, I'm having a great thought. And once you start realizing that, you start acknowledging it within yourself. You start saying, I just had a great thought about myself. You start smiling, you start feeling good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have
Yep.
to work on it.
Yeah, and to work on it. I will add, like, you really have to work on your on the words you tell to yourself. And the only time that you allowed, in my coaching practice, this is what I think, and this is how I, display it to my client, that the only time you allowed to think with a why is in your reflection time.
Mhm.
Because when you said why, you're not asking to people the answer. Because if you wait for, from people the answer, well, they will give you what they want you to be. If you keep asking, very, like, in, in, in an immature way, why do I keep attracting people? Well, people will tell you, oh no, some spiritual will tell you, oh no, you're not attracting. That's God who sent those people to you so that
Mhm.
you can heal them. I refuse this kind of answer, right? And some other will say, you don't attract them. It's just because you rebel. You don't want to, you don't want to have somebody. People will give you answer based on what they want you to be for them. So the only time that you allow to have this kind of question is when you're talking to yourself. That's why this exercise, what I call the mirror exercise, is very important. Learn how you talk to yourself, so that you can let your thought going and expose them and see how you talk about yourself. And because how you talk about yourself is how you think about yourself, right? And most
Absolutely.
of the time is like this. So once again, everything starts in the thought, and it is determining. And I would love to hear again this quote, like, of Peter Sage: outer world follows inner world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.